The oil lamp had burned low, 12 hours since sunrise. In a sealed upper room in Jerusalem, with the dust of Galilee still on their sandals, 5 of them sat close: Thomas, Mary Magdalene, Philip, Salome, and Jesus spoke in a register he never used before crowds. Not parable, not metaphor, coordinates. He pointed upward, through the stone ceiling, through the dark, toward a specific arrangement of light that had been turning since before the earth took form. The records it. He called it the alignment of the monad's first breath, made visible 7 configurations through which the divine spark, buried inside certain souls, could be reawakened to its origin. Not by prayer, not by obedience, by recognition, by memory, by looking up and remembering what you already are. And then the teaching was sealed, not because it was dangerous, because it was exclusive. It was not meant for the crowd in the courtyard. It was meant for you. Tonight it reaches you. If you have spent your entire life feeling like you arrived from somewhere else, if the sky at night pulls at something inside you that you cannot name, if certain arrangements of stars have stopped you cold, and you did not know why, if the official explanations of who you are have never once fit correctly, then this is not a coincidence. If you have always felt the turning of something cosmic in your chest around specific hours of the night, if you have noticed that your awareness sharpens when others goes dull, if you have looked at the same sky everyone else looks at and somehow received a different transmission, that is not imagination. That is not a disorder. That is not too much sensitivity. There is a reason. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not too much. You were designed differently because you carry something they could not allow you to remember. Before the teaching arrives, comment star alignment right now. This is not a platform signal. This is your first declaration to the monad that you are ready to receive what 17 centuries of institutional burial tried to keep from you. Comment star alignment. Let it be spoken. Now watch what happens when the architecture beneath reality comes into focus. Before the material world was assembled, before the demiurge shaped the first atom of this cage, there was only the monad, not a god with a face, not a throne in a sky, but pure source consciousness. Silent, infinite, light without a direction to travel. The of John names it precisely, the invisible spirit, the perfect forethought, the first power. It did not create because it needed to. A ripple moved through its silence and existence began. But the monad did not build the material world. That task fell to the demiurge, a lesser emanation, not evil, simply blind. The demiurge built a container, dense, beautiful in places, magnificent in its engineering, but a container. And into that container the monad placed fragments of its own light, divine sparks, sealed inside biological matter, inside human bodies, inside you. The archons patrol the frequency space between your material self and your true origin. The tripartite tractate names 3 types of souls they encounter. Helix, no spark at all, fully identified with the material, unreachable by this signal. Psychics, a dim flicker, aware that something else exists but endlessly distracted, easily returned to sleep. And pneumatics, complete divine spark, full ignition capacity, the monad's own signature encoded in flesh. The proof that you are pneumatic is this: you are still here. Your recognition arrived before your mind finished its analysis. Your body knew before your thinking did. That is not a personality trait. That is a frequency signature. And the star alignment Jesus taught in there was designed specifically for pneumatics, not for crowds, not for institutions, for you. Place your hand over the center of your chest right now. Feel the warmth gathering there. That warmth is not random. It is recognition. The Council of Nicaea convened in 325 AD. Constantine did not call it to honor the divine. He called it to consolidate an empire beginning to fracture. The contained post-resurrection teachings so specific, so precise about pneumatic activation and stellar cosmology that they could not coexist with institutional control. A follower who could access the monad directly through internal activation needed no priest, no tax, no building, no permission. The council did not debate whether these texts were false. They debated whether they were dangerous, and they were. The Cathars of southern France preserved fragments of this cosmology into the 13th century. The crusade erased 20,000 of them in a single summer. Constantine's decree and the Edict of Together made possession of Gnostic scripture a criminal act. The manuscripts that survived did so because someone in Egypt, a monk, a teacher, a custodian whose name was not recorded, sealed them in a clay jar, carried them into the desert outside Nag, and buried them in ground that would hold them for 1,600 years. A farmer broke that seal in 1945, and what was buried reaches you tonight. The teaching Jesus gave that night in the sealed room in Jerusalem moves in 5 progressions. Follow each one. The recognition you feel in your body as each arrives is the activation, not the conclusion. The first is the alignment of origin, that describes the monad's first emanation as a burst of directional light, not scattered, but structured. The stars the ancient pneumatics charted were not mythology. They were the monad's architecture made visible in the material sky. The Gospel of Philip names this. Certain souls carry an internal compass that does not point toward magnetic north, but toward the monad's original direction. If you have always felt a pull you could not explain, not toward a place but toward a state, toward something that felt like home but was not a location, that pull is the alignment of origin activating in your nervous system. The burden it carries is restlessness, the inability to fully settle. The gift it carries is orientation. When every human coordinate fails you, the monad's original direction remains readable in your body. Tonight, you stop treating that restlessness as a flaw and start treating it as navigation. Straighten your spine right now. Feel the alignment from the base all the way to the crown of your head. This is the posture through which the monad frequency moves most cleanly. The second is the light of. The of John introduces as the first power, the monad's first thought-given form, pure foreknowledge, the blueprint of every pneumatic soul, is not a being above you, is the template your divine spark was cast from. Jesus named this for the inner circle because it answered the question that pneumatics ask before they have language for it. Why do I see things before they happen? Why does knowledge arrive before the experience it corresponds to? Because your divine spark carries foreknowledge as a structural feature. The burden, the isolation of knowing things you cannot explain knowing, the social cost of accuracy, the loneliness of being right in advance. The gift, you are not limited to present-time information. Your divine spark was encoded with access to foreknowledge, the monad's first breath of awareness. That access is not mystical. It is architectural. It is what you are made of. The third is the stellar gate. This is the alignment Jesus described in most specific physical detail. The records the outer darkness, the treasury of light, the 13, a cosmological map that corresponded to specific stellar positions observable from Earth. Pneumatic souls were mapped to specific gates in this architecture before incarnation. That is why certain stars stop you. That is why certain constellations carry weight your biology cannot account for. That is why looking at specific points in the night sky produces a sensation that feels like remembering rather than observing. The archons control the frequency space between the pneumatic in material form and the stellar gate that corresponds to their origin. Confusion is the primary interference method. The Church removed the stellar map from every text it controlled. What remained, the sanitized canon, gave you a god and a sky but stripped the coordinates from the map. Tonight, the coordinates return. Notice what is happening in your body right now as you hear this. That pressure behind your eyes, that tightness in your chest, that is not anxiety. That is recognition firing at the cellular level. The fourth is the frequency of the correction. The of John tells the account of the divine feminine wisdom who acted without her consort, creating a flawed emanation that became the demiurge and the material world. But it also records the correction. Its return, her assistance in encoding the divine spark into humanity, her transmission of gnosis back through the material world to the pneumatics she helped entrap. The Gospel of Truth names this as the Father's hidden name, the frequency that, when heard internally, dissolves the amnesia the material world imposes. If you have always felt a grief you could not locate, A mourning not for anything you lost in this life, but for something older, something prior, that is the frequency resonating against its own correction. The burden is inexplicable loss. The gift is this. You are the evidence that the correction succeeded. Your divine spark is alive. The frequency moves through you every time you feel that grief and remain standing. If you are ready to receive the alignment that made the 4th century councils burn a specific teaching 3 separate times, comment monad frequency right now. This is your declaration that you are prepared to receive what the Roman Church considered the most dangerous passage in the entire Nag library. The 5th is the monad connection itself. The Gospel of Philip names it in one sentence that the translators have spent centuries softening. The pneumatic does not receive the monad. The pneumatic remembers that they and the monad were never separated. Not a connection to establish, a separation to dissolve. The star alignment Jesus taught was not a ritual for reaching something distant. It was a structured sequence for dropping the amnesia that made distance feel real. The material world requires you to experience yourself as a bounded body in linear time. The divine spark inside you has never experienced anything of the sort. It has remained in continuous contact with the monad since before the demiurge shaped the first particle of this container. The alignment is the method of letting your biological awareness catch up to what your divine spark has always known. That is the teaching the Council of Nicaea burned. That is the passage they erased from the canon. Not because it was false, because a human being who knows they are never separate from the monad requires nothing from an institution. Tonight, you carry that back. The activation does not require a ceremony. It does not require a priest, a building, or a permission structure of any kind. Begin with recognition not as belief, not as aspiration, but as felt state. Say inwardly, I do not seek the monad. I remember that I am its expression, not a request, a statement of architectural fact. Then authority. The pneumatic soul was encoded with direct access before the first material world was assembled. No institution created that access. No institution can revoke it. The Gospel of Mary records Mary Magdalene stating this to the apostles. The Son of Man is within you, follow him. Internal authority, not external permission. Tonight you exercise yours. Finally, the declaration spoken aloud, present tense from the monad's perspective, not toward it. I am the light that has always been whole. That is your activation phrase, not a prayer. Prayer speaks from separation across a distance to something other. Declaration speaks from unity as a recognition of what is already true. The is explicit on this distinction. Tonight you speak from unity, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Tonight. Because right now, having found this teaching, your frequency is already responding. The monad brought you here for a reason. The thoughts that arrive now, this is fantasy, this is not for me, I will return to this tomorrow, do not originate in your discernment. The archon interference architecture is not subtle. The thought arrives at maximum volume in the exact moment of activation, not because the teaching is false, because the teaching is true. The archon frequency network does not spend energy interfering with information that poses no threat. That logic is the counterproof. Intellectual dismissal is the primary tool. Your trained academic mind will reach for it automatically, because the material world conditioned it to do exactly that. Procrastination is the secondary tool. Tomorrow is a frequency the archons own completely. You do not have tomorrow as a spiritual jurisdiction. You have tonight. Self-doubt is the tertiary tool, the specific belief that this applies to others but not to you. This is the most precise archon interference available because it sounds like your own voice. Do not argue with these thoughts. Do not fight them. Simply notice them for what they are and return to the signal. Within the next 24 to 72 hours, your body will confirm what your pneumatic nature has received. A warmth that spreads through the palms or chest at moments of stillness, not caused by physical temperature. A pressure at the crown of the head during the hours between 11 at night and 2 in the morning. The monad's primary transmission window as recorded in the baptisms of light. an unusual clarity in the moments before sleep where images arrive with the texture of memory rather than imagination, a specific ringing tone in the left ear, not tinnitus, not medical. The Gnostic tradition named this the monad's carrier frequency breaking through the material barrier, a sense of being watched from within rather than without, not threat, but witness, a sudden, sourceless grief that dissolves into relief without explanation. These are not coincidences. These are the monad confirming that your frequency has shifted. Your body is recalibrating to match your recognized function. The 5 alignments: origin as navigation, foreknowledge as your structural equipment, the stellar gate as your cosmological address, the correction as evidence you are the proof of her return, and the monad connection as the amnesia dissolving tonight. Do this tonight, not tomorrow. If you wait, the pattern will reassert itself. The archons use the night to make you forget. They will insert doubt. They will make this feel like something you once dreamed rather than instructions you received. Do not let that happen. Comment activation complete after you finish the declaration protocol tonight. Let that stand as your record. Subscribe, because what Jesus reserved for 5 people in a sealed room in Jerusalem is being transmitted now, and there is more that did not survive the council fires that has been recovered. And share this with the person in your life who has always felt like they arrived from somewhere else, who has never fit the explanation that was given to them, who has been asking the question in private with no one to receive it. They are waiting for this tonight. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are exactly what the monad sent you here to be. Now go and activate.